Welcome back to the channel. I hope everybody's having a great day. So I want to introduce a new series to the channel called Versus, where I take two similar games in the same genre and give them a friendly comparison. Now, I want to keep this video short, so let's get into this comparison between Nioh 2 and Long Fallen Dynasty. The game world in Long begins with an overworld hub that houses all of your different missions to complete. It'll also house all your side missions that you go complete. So there is no seamless open world in Long. You choose your level, and that's the level you're going to play. Instead, you are provided with linear levels to progress through. Now, I did mention linear levels, however, they are open to an extent, providing branching paths to explore, but often they lead you right back to the main path of progression. Where I think Long separates itself from Nioh is that Long offers a great deal of verticality due to the game having a jump mechanic. This does really lend its hand to the gameplay because this allows for you to sneak across rooftops, perform diving attacks, and do all sorts of crazy things. It also allows them to design the world in a more interesting way, in my opinion. Now, let's take a look at Nioh's world. Now, Nioh pretty much is identical to Long in regards to it starting out with an overworld hub that houses all of your main missions and side missions to choose from. So, again, there's no seamless world to play in. Levels here are linear with branching paths that allow for a bit of exploration, but again, it always leads you back to your main path of progression. Nioh doesn't really separate itself here because Long is its successor. We expect the levels to be better in every way, or at least they should be, right? However, it is worth mentioning that generally the levels are a bit smaller in Nioh and lack the amount of deviation from the main path that Long provides. Now, with the levels and the game worlds out of the way, let's jump into the good stuff, and that's the combat. Let me say this, the combat in Long is fast, sometimes very fast. I would say amongst Souls-like games, this has to be the fastest in my opinion. Now, combat is broken up into mainly three components: attacking, parrying, and your spirit gauge management, with some weapon abilities and spells centered around the elements sprinkled in. Let's start with the spirit gauge because it's the key to everything else. You have a positive side and you have a negative side. Now, Long awards you for being aggressive because constantly attacking the enemy with normal attacks will build your spirit gauge, as well as parrying normal and critical enemy attacks. While every other action will deplete your spirit gauge from using weapon abilities to heavy attacks, using spells, even dodging. So your sole purpose is to keep as much positive spirit gauge as you can to expend it on spells and weapon abilities without going too far into the negative side of your gauge. Now, the reason this is so important to stay away from the negative side is because every time you take damage, it takes away from your positive spirit gauge and adds to the negative side. And if your negative side is maxed out and you take damage, you become stunned, and generally that leads to death. The spirit gauge is the main mechanic that separates itself from Nioh. Now let's jump over to Nioh and see how things work out there. Now, combat in Nioh has a much more slower pace than Long. I would say the pace is right in line with generally most Souls-like games. It often feels much more methodical, and that's mainly because of the stamina system. See, whereas Long encourages aggressive play, you can't always get away with that in Nioh due to your stamina running out. Like the spirit gauge in Long, stamina plays a key role in combat from attacking to dodging, and without it you're left vulnerable to enemy attacks. Another key component of the combat system is the weapon stances. Nioh offers 3 stances for each weapon: high, medium, and low. Not only does each stance change the weapon combinations, but it also changes the amount of stamina used from each attack, with high being the most, low being the least, and medium is, well, right in the middle. Something else I wanted to mention is that Nioh does have a magic system as well, centered around different elements, such as water, electric, etc. Just as Long. You can also learn abilities from different enemies that you fight and equip and use those abilities. You also have a pretty cool demonic form that you can transform into, or a Yokami, I believe is what it's called, and that will give you a whole new set of abilities that you can take advantage of. And something that I did forget to mention with Long, both games do have ranged combat, which basically stems from using bows, kunais, rifles, etc., things like that. Ultimately, I think you have two very well-crafted Souls-like games from Team Ninja that has a ton of similarities but have the uniqueness to stand on their own. Now, I didn't want to get into the nitty-gritty with every minute detail, comparing every feature, because I'd be here forever. But just real quick, some other similar systems they have is the progression system. Like most Souls games, you kill enemies, you get currency, and you spend it to progress your character. If you die, you lose it. Now, Wolong is a bit more generous, because if you die, instead of losing all of your currency, you only lose a portion of it, which can then be recovered. Other than that, both games share a similar loot system. I would say it's a little bit more on the streamlined side for Wolong, as it's easier to flesh out your character and make him how you want to. Quests are basically identical in the terms that they are presented. You can basically tell this game is made by the same studio. As for me, let's get into my take. As for me, I have finished both games and they are both great in their own ways. If I had to choose one, I think Nioh is the better game overall, but I prefer the combat of Wolong. I'm a sucker for fast-paced combat, what can I say? But I think both of these games are great. And if you guys are on the fence about which one you should play more or which one do you think you would enjoy more, I would just say this. If you don't like parrying, Nioh is definitely the way to go. If you like faster combat, Wolong is the way to go. But I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments below. What did you think about this versus video? Which game do y'all like better and why? Have you ever played these games? Let me know. But that's all I got for now. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. And if y'all did, please drop a like and a sub. It goes a long way. And I got more coming. Catch y'all next time.